Welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoyed your morning tea and the opportunity for a bit of networking. All right, our next session is pre-recorded. It's on trust, the panacea for collaborative processes. And I'd like to say I'm introducing, but it kind of feels like I'm not introducing him because he's not actually here. I'm just reading his bio to you. So here we go. Professor Dr. Erik Hans Klijn is an international distinguished public administration scholar, especially in the field of complex decision-making, policy networks and network management. For the last 10 years, his research has expanded to branding and media influence on complex decision-making. In 2019, he received an honorary doctorate from the University of Ghent for his work on network governance. His research and teaching in the last 10 years has focused on topics like the importance of network management on network performance, the role of trust in complex decision-making in networks, democratic legitimacy in complex decision-making, research on public and private partnerships, the influence of media attention on complex decision-making, and styles of street-level bureaucrats. In 2012, he wrote a book on branding in public management and governance. So, IT people, take it away.
Good morning, at least it is morning when you watch this video. In this video, I would like to reflect very shortly on the relation between trust and collaborative processes. And I think if you look at the trust, it's really the magical word. If you ask practitioners in collaborative processes, they will probably emphasize the importance of trust between partners, between actors involved in the process. But trust also prominently figures in collaborative and network governance theories. Yes, mostly is being mentioned as one of the core conditions for achieving collaboration and achieving outcomes. But I also think it's very dominant in alliance theories and theories of relational governance in business administration. So there's a lot to say for the impact of trust on collaboration. I think trust also has its enemies and its critics. Williamson, godfather of institutional economics, calls it a superfluous concept. He says trust is blind. Yes, we simply trust someone and there's no rational condition for that. I'm coming back to that. And he said trust is risk-taking, so I only collaborate. When I collaborate with someone, I just take the risk that someone is more or less cheating me. I think there is something wrong in that argumentation, because if you say it's risk-taking and collaboration is risk-taking, then you more or less assume that it's possible to assess the amount of risk, which is in most cases very difficult. And it also, I think, violates the idea of bounded rationality, that we are not able to collect all the information, but we have limited information. I think that's also very crucial in collaboration and collaborative processes. But I think before we go on, I think we must look at what trust really is. It's a confusing concept. I think trust is an intention. It's a perception of one actor about the possible behavior of another actor. So, which here is the perception that actor A refrains from opportunistic behavior against actor B, even if opportunity arises. So trust also implies a certain forgiveness. If someone doesn't live up to the expectations and the agreement you make, you can, of course, sue that actor, which would be, well, the US way to react. But you can also think, okay, maybe there is some kind of rationality, reasons behind the fact that the other actor cannot live up to the expectation. Trust certainly implies uncertainty. If there's no uncertainty, if I have a contract which foresees in every possible action and reaction of the other actor, and I can I can use penalties in that case, then there's no need for trust. Trust is not an action, it's a perception, as I mentioned, but actions can come forward from trust. And I think trust is both a social and a rational process. I told trust is forgiveness, but of course, if someone cheats me 10 times and I still trust him or her, then it's more like masochism than trust. Yeah, so the actual behavior of actors in some way has to match my trust perception of that actor. Otherwise, um, I won't be able to sustain that. And I think if you look at collaboration, yes, I have to be short on this, but I think the crucial characteristic of collaboration is complexity and dynamics. Yes, all collaborative processes involve many actors that are interdependent to each other. The interaction is complex because the actors have different perceptions on the problem and they're all relatively autonomous, so they strategize. And that means that a lot of unexpected outcomes are possible and interaction is dynamic and creates a lot of uncertainty. Yes, and usually collaborative processes involve bigger problems that are hard to solve and need tailor-made, often innovative solutions. So you need to exchange information between different actors to really develop and implement that innovative solutions. So if you look at collaboration, I think you can say you cannot analyze and foresee everything. And I think that's important in relation to trust and to the previous slides I show. And it's difficult to achieve good outcomes. And then trust can be a real asset in facilitating process of collaboration and providing information. And I think the literature on trust also emphasizes that. And if you look at that literature, I think it emphasizes three types of beneficial effects of trust in collaboration. I think the first thing what it emphasizes is facilitating cooperation. So trust reduces uncertainty. If we trust someone, the possible strategic possibility of the other actor are reduced a little bit. Yes, so the uncertainty is being reduced. Not completely, of course, that's impossible in collaboration and in cooperation, but it's reduced to a certain amount. And I think if you have high trust in collaborative processes or collaborative networks, yes, that in principle saves transaction costs. You don't need costly and extensive contracts so much if you have high level of trust. Yes. And if you have a low level of trust, you really need tight contracts because you expect the other actors to act opportunistically. I think the second interesting thing is that trust is solidifying cooperation. So if you trust the actors in the process, you are more inclined to enhance investments and stability in the relation. You intend to invest more in that relation, and that encourages investments in both the cooperation and in durability of relations. So trust is very good for stabilizing a cooperation and making it more tight. And I think the last one is probably the most important one. It enhances performance of collaborative networks, arrangements, partnerships, yes, because it stimulates learning and knowledge exchange. When you trust other people, you're more inclined to provide those people information which is crucial. You're more inclined to exchange information, yes. And if you don't trust people, you're less inclined to do that because you think the information you will be given, especially if it's economic valuable, will probably be misused by the other actors, yes. And I already mentioned that collaboration usually is about bigger problems and usually is about finding innovative solutions for complex problems. So then you need the exchange of information. And innovation then, and this is the more or less the same argument, innovation is very much facilitated by trust. If you together work on an innovation, whether it's in the business sector or in the public sector. Yes, in the business sector, if you develop a new product and you have no idea what the actually end product will be, yeah, then there is uncertainty and you need to work together on that solution, but you have no idea whether that will succeed. And if you provide information and invest resources, yes, you have no guarantee that the other doesn't take the money and run. Yes, partly during the process. And I think trust is an asset in this case in a network to facilitate innovation and learning processes. And I think these are essential for creating innovative solutions or new products if you are in a private sector sphere. Okay, then if you look at research, I think we did a lot of research actually the past 10 years on both environmental projects or on public-private partnerships. And we consistently found, both in survey and multiple case studies, we consistently found positive effects on trust on performance. So our networks and collaborative processes, partnerships with higher level of trust function significantly better and have better performance than networks with lower level of trust. And I think it's interesting that if you look at other research in other countries, this is confirmed. So as far as I know, there is research in the US, in Belgium, in Switzerland. We ourselves did comparative research in the Netherlands, Taiwan, and Spain. And it's consistently, we each time we find the same thing, it has a positive effect on collaborative and network governance. So it is the magical word, isn't it? There is, of course, a but. There's always a but. And the problem, of course, is that trust can easily be broken in the sense that there are no penalties. You don't have a contract. You cannot go to court. You cannot ask for a fine, yeah, if the other actors are not living up to the agreement. Of course, there is a kind of checks and balances here, because the difference is between a one-time interaction and a frequent repeated interaction. If you are in networks or collaborative process, usually you frequently interact with other actors. And then reputation becomes important. So it is possible to take the money and run, to say it in this way. But of course, that damages your reputation in the network. And if you have to work with actors for a longer period, the other actors in the network will probably notice your untrustful behavior, and that will damage your reputation in the network. So despite the fact that trust cannot be enforced by a contract, the reputation argument still secures a little bit that you cannot break your trust relations constantly. Another disadvantage is that trust has to be built. I mentioned trust saves transaction costs because you don't need costly contracts. But of course, the other side of the coin is that it has to be built. Yes, usually in collaborative process, you don't know each other that well. So you don't have a high level of trust. So it has to be built, and that's costly. It needs investment, intensive interaction, facilitating, managing. Yes, and too much trust could lead to something like groupthink. Yes. So in that sense, there is no such thing as a free lunch. Building trust really, I think, is hard work. And then, of course, the question is, okay, what kind of conditions are favorable to the emergence of trust? How can you build trust? And then I think that research very much shows that, and that's the research we did the past 10 years, active network management fosters trust. Really, there's a fairly strong relation between what we call network management, which is connecting people, exploring content, trying to combine and connect different perceptions of actors, using process rules at the start to organize the process. These are all kinds of activities which strongly fosters trust. Of course, more interactions is good for condition for trust. So if you have less interaction in general in networks, there is a lower level of trust. And we also find, which is interesting, we did some research on media attention for, in this case, environmental project. And usually media attention is a little bit threatening to trust, has a negative impact. And that's probably the reason, it's probably caused by the fact that media attention usually tries to single out the conflict, the problematic side of projects and collaborations. And the reactions of actors in such a process when media focus in is usually to emphasize their own interests and their own positions, and conflicts are being reinforced, being strengthened. Okay, so probable and good instruments of trust are one, designing process rules between actors. So if you go for a collaboration, I think it's important to think of what kind of process rules, being temporary rules for interactions, agreements between actors, would be good in this specific collaborative process or network. And that, I think for that you really need to know your network and to know what are the weak and the strong side of a network, and which dimension actually need additional rules. So if you have a lot of conflict, yes, you probably need conflict rules at the start to manage that. Stable, accepted institutional rules between actors usually facilitate trust. And of course, logically, given what I mentioned earlier, an active manager, you invest time and energy in building trust, but also attractive solutions. So this is a kind of a cycle, reinforcing cycle. So if you have active manager who succeeds in creating and elaborating interesting, attractive solutions for the actors, that creates enthusiasm and commitment, and that leads to more trust. So then you can have something like a trust cycle, yes, which is important to build. Okay, then in the end, something like a reflection. Yes, in a way, trust is the magical word. It is crucial, and I think that is actually one of the main reasons why we build networks or engage in collaborative processes, because we want to solve complex social problems, yes, or we want to achieve, if we in a business context, we want to achieve innovative products, yes, and to achieve that, we really have to arrive at a kind of a minimum level of trust to make this possible. Without trust, it's very difficult to achieve innovative solution, to let the information flow, and to create innovative new product and policy. Yes. So besides the fact that trust takes a lot of time and needs intensive interaction, yes, and needs a lot of network management to emerge, I think it's basically one of the core reasons why we engage in networks, because we need a trust, yes, to solve social problems and to create innovative products. Okay, thank you very much. This is in very short time what I would like to say.